Indian Storybook by Richard Wilson. Story 1, Rama's Quest, Parts 9 and 10. Part 9. It was night, and Ravana stood alone upon the ramparts of the pleasant town of Lanka. They had told him that his foes would make a pathway through the trackless sea, and he had laughed, but now that he was alone with night, he knew that his hour had come, and looking out across the dark waters, he saw the creeping army approaching nearer and nearer to his shores. No sound was heard while the strange warriors arranged themselves in troops and squadrons by the margin of the silent sea. Then Ravana left the ramparts. As soon as morning dawned, he went to the grove where Sita was kept a prisoner by a guard of monsters. He entered a cave and knelt before the princess. "Rama is dead," he cried. "He came in the night, my young warriors surrounded him and slew him. Ho, there," he cried, turning towards the entrance of the cave, "bring me the head of Rama." It was easy enough for a magician to produce a head, and even to ensure its resemblance to that of the hero Rama, easy enough to fill the soul of the tortured princess with terror and to plunge her heart into the lowest depths of grief. But it showed a complete lapse of intelligence on the part of Ravana to expect that the death of Rama would be followed by the winning of Sita for himself. For a time at least, the poor princess passed beyond all knowledge of her loss and of the torture to which she was subjected, for with a piercing cry of "Dead, my lord!" she sank to the ground in an overmastering swoon. Ravana took his departure, and the kindly gods who had sent unconsciousness to Sita now sowed compassion in the heart of one of her guardians, who raised the princess in her arms and whispered words of comfort in her ear. "It is merely a trick," she said in a soothing tone. "Look up, my little singing bird. Open thine eyes. Thy hero is not dead. A vast army has landed on a shore, and among them moves one whose sad and noble countenance proclaims him to be Rama, your godlike husband." The fainting heart of the princess revived upon hearing these words, and she graciously thanked the kindly monster for her tenderness and courtesy. Meanwhile, the monkey army had met and utterly routed the forces of Rama, and the leaders were even now at the gates of Lanka. Then Sugriva stood forth and warned the people of the place that the hour of judgment had come for Ravana, whose career of injustice, oppression, and cruelty was now ended. But he offered mercy to the inhabitants if the princess were at once sent out to Rama with all due courtesy and respect. The courtiers of Ravana laughed scornfully. "We shall see if blows be as easy as words to Rama," said the Rakshasa, "this precious prince whose friends are monkeys." Then the fighting began again. Armed with trees which they had torn up by the roots, the followers of Sugriva advanced upon the four walls of the city, Rama, Lakshmana, and Sugriva choosing to attack the northern gate unaided. The battle continued throughout the day. Night fell, but the stars refused to shine upon a scene so terrible and so strange. The sounds of drums and trumpets blended with the fierce growlings of the fighters, and the two princes moved among them in a godlike radiance which surrounded their forms and served to act as a kind of strange armor, protecting them from the arrows of their foes, while it singled them out in the darkness and offered what appeared to be an easy mark for the archers. This supernatural protection roused the anger of their foes, and one of the Rakshasas called magic to his aid, mounted into the air in a chariot, all unseen by the enemy, and harassed the attacking forces with enchanted arrows. So effective was this ruse that Rama and Lakshmana were both severely wounded and fell to the ground. Then the fighting was stayed, and the Rakshasa in his airy chariot flashed into sight. "Behold," he cried, "your leaders fall. Pick up your dead, ye poor deluded monkeys. Go back from whence ye came, and hide your wounds and shame in the deepest, darkest recesses of the forests to which you belong." Sugriva ran to the side of the prostrate Rama and dropped many bitter tears upon him. But at that moment Rama opened his eyes, and seeing his brother stretched at his side, apparently dead, closed them again in despair. This had a bracing effect upon Sugriva, who flung his arms about his head and declared his intention of rescuing Sita by himself and then setting fire to the town. Then the wind, the kindly god which cheers the heart in drought and foretells the coming of cool, refreshing showers, whispered in the ear of the half unconscious Rama. Rama of the brawny arms, remember the greatness of thy heart. Be true to thyself. Thy mission is to cleanse the world of evil, which is embodied in hideous form in the persons of Ravana and his crew. At these words, the heart of the hero revived, and he leapt to his feet, while Lakshmana also arose, with the laughter which goes before conquest in his eyes. Then the desperate fight began again. Part 10. Now Ravana had a younger brother named Kumbhakarna, who was a very ugly giant, requiring such a great deal of food that nothing was safe within his reach. He devoured everything that came in his way, everything indeed which his huge, fat, ugly, spreading feet did not crush as flat as a cake of flour. He had a simple mind and harbored no malice in his heart, but, like many other well-meaning, clumsy creatures, he did a great deal of mischief. So much indeed that most people wished that the gods would conduct him in a kindly way to some place of retreat where there was plenty of food and where he would be under no necessity of moving about to satisfy his hunger. This was the only thing which impelled him to move about, and everyone felt that if he could only be fed by someone else, all would be well. No one wished for his death, for he was, as we have hinted, a very jolly giant. One day the chief of the gods had summoned him to his presence and told him how everyone was complaining of his tremendous appetite and the clumsiness of his ways. The huge giant looked very sheepish, but had not a word to say, for the weight of his body was only equalled by the apparent lightness of his mind. "I cannot judge thee harshly," said the chief of gods, "and all that I can do is to put you to sleep." At these words, Kumbhakarna sank down with an easy smile and went to sleep. "For 1 day in 6 months you shall be free to roam at will and to eat whatever you do not crush," said the chief of the gods. So the good-natured giant slept for a long time and woke for a short time, to the great comfort of all who lived in Lanka and the rest of the world. But when Ravana found himself in great straits during the desperate war with Rama, the Rakshasa began to think that his heavy brother ought to rouse himself and help in the family necessity. Of what use to the realm is this giant's enormous strength and appetite if he cannot get up, crush, kill, and eat as many as possible of these pestilent monkeys? This was, of course, a very natural complaint, and a company of Rakshasas at once set out for the palace of the slumberous giant. As soon as they came near the gate, they were blown backwards for several yards by the heavy breathing of the sleeper, but holding each other firmly, they managed to keep their feet and to advance with lowered heads against the breeze. After an invigorating struggle, they arrived at last in the chamber of the jolly giant, whom they found prone upon his back, snoring in such a manner that the huge building trembled to its very foundations. Then the messengers of Ravana, holding fast to the wall and to one another, piled up around the couch of the sleeper mountains of buffalo flesh, whole gazelles, boars, and all manners of meats, very tasty to an eater who found no delight in nuts and vegetables. They filled golden vases with fiery drinks and placed them close to the sleeper's nostrils. Then they retired to a place which was out of the draught and awaited results. But this plan had little effect. Kumbhakarna stirred slightly as if the pleasant odours had reached him in his dream, but the depth of his slumber was in no way disturbed. Then the messengers anointed his huge limbs with oil of sandalwood. They sounded brazen trumpets in his cavernous ears. They shouted, clapped their hands, and leapt heavily upon his couch. But Kumbhakarna slept and snored. Next they brought camels and asses and elephants, and lashed them till they ran around the room, grunting and hee-hawing and trumpeting with a tumult that was heard all over the town of Lanka. But Kumbhakarna slept and snored. So some of the messengers pulled his hair, others pinched or pummelled him, one bit his thumb, others hammered him with heavy mallets and clubs. A few leapt upon his body and ran races over him, head to heel and back again. But Kumbhakarna slept and snored. Then they tried a new plan. They brought to the palace a crowd of the most beautiful singing girls in Lanka, and these maidens, clasping hands, danced around the prostrate form of the slumberer, singing softly all the while, bending now and again to whisper in the sleeper's ear, and occasionally breaking into the gentlest of laughter, which sounded like the tinkling of silver bells. Of course, in their circular dance, each light-footed maiden passed into the direct draught caused by the giant's heavy breathing, and the air lifted her from her feet. But the gentle ring was unbroken, and this variation only increased the beauty and gracefulness of the dance.